this is all going to be a little bit pie in the sky, but I thought it would be interesting to have a debate about what the next government would be. It occurred to me that in this country we have 2 years before we go to a general election, and one can't help feeling that with the current government there's a lot of dissatisfaction with a lot of the things that they have done, not just from my point of view, but from people across the whole country, from the whole British Isles, and that there is an opportunity in the future for something new, something different. Now, I know all governments say, oh, it's new this, and we're going to do this differently, and we're all going to do something else differently. And of course, you tend not to get anything that's new. It's all the same old rhetoric and nothing actually happens. So I don't want to necessarily sit here and argue for some of the things that we all know what we would like to see: better policing our borders, and better education, and a better military, and you know, all the normal stuff that all the politicians will come out for. This thought came to me today when I was taking a stroll down to the seafront where I live, down on the coast in the cold. And I was thinking about the pandemic that we've just gone through, and the things that we were made to feel during that time, how the government really scared us with all the mainstream media on their side, and even the opposition scaring us as well. There was no light, there was no hope given to any of us. We were told about the pandemic that was coming, and the fear of God was put into us. The absolute, people were terrified, and I'm sure as a result of this, we've got ourselves into the mess that we've got ourselves. A lot of people, of course, as a result of the lockdowns, couldn't go into the GPs and couldn't have checkups for all sorts of things. We know that there's going to be a lot of cancer deaths that could have been avoided. So we know all of that. And it made me think about what kind of a government would I actually want in this country, apart from all the things that I've already mentioned, you know, the normal things that all the politicians pay lip service to and tell us. And I thought, well, if we were to have this time again, if we had another pandemic, for example, that came along, I would want a government that acted completely differently to the one that we have just had. And I've not really heard anybody else say this or propose this sort of thing. And I think this would also be just good generally. But here's my thoughts on if you turn us back to March 2020 and the government are up there, the ministers are saying, like, look, there's a pandemic coming. It's not particularly good, but it won't affect everybody. It's only going to affect the people over 80 and those people with core mobilities. This is what I would like them to have said that they didn't. And this is what I would like the future governments to think about. So there's this thing coming, but don't worry, most people are actually going to be okay. It only affects these people in these age brackets or people with certain deficiencies in them. So what we're going to propose, instead of locking people down, because we don't think that would be a good idea, and making people stay at home and not go to work and ruin the economy, instead of that, what we would encourage is for people to go to work, to get out there, keep the economy going, because it's the economy that will keep people healthy. It's by people working and keeping the economy going, we've lifted so many people out of poverty. But we can still do better than that. We'd take this opportunity of this terrible thing that's coming that could affect all of us in some way or another. And what we'll do is we will work on the basis that we have an immune system that is very good and has kept us alive for hundreds of thousands of years. The human race is only here and surviving all the different things because we have an amazing immune system. But what we can do in this modern day of ours, with the pandemic coming along, is we can actually make ourselves healthier. We'll take the opportunity to really make ourselves healthy. Instead of sitting indoors, hiding, having high processed foods, waiting for people to come and deliver the food in takeaways, being inactive, getting more overweight than we already are as a nation, we as the government are going to encourage you to get outside into the sunlight for vitamin D. We'll encourage you to take other vitamins. We'll encourage you and incentivise you to take exercise, to reduce your smoking, to improve your diet. We could do that in many different ways. We could spend a whole load of money on something called furlough, in which we take you off work and we just pay you to sit at home and watch the television or surf on the internet. But no, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to put that money that we would have to spend in that situation into farmers to produce low but high quality fresh food, fresh fruit, fresh veg, fresh meat, fresh dairy. We're going to subsidise the food so that you can have cheaper but high quality fresh food. We're going to encourage the farmers to deliver to the supermarkets and the other shops in the area locally, rather than in one massive great big distribution chain and selling it to the highest bidder and it going overseas or wherever. We're going to try and get the fruit and the veg and the important nutrients from the ground into you, our people. And not only that, we're going to also help people because we can run courses. We'll show you how you can use the fruit and veg, just like the old times when people used to do that as a family unit, where it may have been just mum or possibly dad involved in the kitchen and cooking. Because we're going to encourage you to eat, we're going to run courses for free. The money we would have spent on furlough, we're going to put some of that so that everybody could have a free course on understanding how you cook good, sensible food, like casseroles and like steaks, like good salads and things like that, all sorts of things, so that you can have a very healthy and balanced diet. Now, we understand that not everybody will have time to do this, but we're going to help you as best we can so that you don't have to have ping food or instant TV dinners. We're going to encourage you to turn the televisions off, and that you get involved as a community, as a family, and all work together to keep yourselves healthy whilst this pandemic goes overhead, because that's the best way that we're going to fight it. We're going to encourage people to go out to the pubs. We're going to keep the pubs alive. It's not so that people can drink themselves silly, but so that they can get fresh and cheaper food in the pubs and hostelries around the country, and will help the restaurants to keep the prices down, because farmers, we're going to invest in the farmers to grow stuff in season for those restaurants particularly, so people can eat, because what you eat is what you are. That's what I would like to see much more of, that investment in the old ways, in many ways, of doing things. And I think that could be good. We will make sure that every child has a school meal, a healthy school meal, not, again, just burgers and chips. We would be encouraging people not to have too much fast food, that they have at least 2 or 3 proper healthy meals in the week. And anybody on any benefits, whether that's disability benefit or the universal benefit, we will ensure that they have access to cheaper food, maybe by some sort of tokens or something, vouchers or something like that, in order so that everybody in this country can keep the pandemic at bay by being healthy. We'll run special courses all over the place for free. So if people want to reduce their smoking or want to reduce any other drug taking and things like that, without question, they can come along and do that. If people would want free dietary advice. Now, there may be some of this already going out there, but I don't see it in the adverts. Whereas during the last 2 years, we had all these doom and gloom, don't go into the park, don't sit down, you might kill granny, and the money was spent. I would much rather see a government that says, look, we're going to put your health first. We're going to encourage you. It's going to be the carrot, not the stick. That's what I would like to see. There must be loads of ways that we can incentivize people to be healthy. Now, I'm not saying that we want a nanny state. I'm not saying that at all. If people want to eat the whatever sort of processed foods and what I might think of as the wrong kind of foods and things, that's fine. I think everybody should have the right to be able to eat whatever they damn well like. It's up to them, what is legally able. But instead of encouraging a society in which you flop down and you just eat, and particularly in the last 2 years where we've just simply allowed the food to come to our door and we've no idea what's in it. We don't know how wholesome it is. We're losing the knack of understanding how valuable meat is, for example, in our diets, how to prepare food. We would be encouraging, my future government would be teaching, when I was at school we had something called home economics. We would be teaching children how to cook wonderful, healthy meals that growing up, and when they get in either on their own or they go to university or they're working in a trade, they can come home and they can cook and they know the value of food. They can taste real food. They haven't got to add all the nasty things to it to make it something. They know that it's good and wholesome for them. We would encourage children, of course, to walk to school. Now, I'm sure that's going on in a very sort of low-key way, but maybe children are a bit nervous about it. So I would encourage, or my government would have more policemen on the streets in the Dixon of Dock Green way that we used to have, where the police were on our side. They were a service. They were a service. They were a force again, and they did do. They stopped burglaries, but they knew people. They knew what was going on because they interacted. All that kind of stuff. That we would just encourage people to be healthy, as opposed to not being healthy. And that way we would fight a pandemic, but we would also, at the end of the pandemic, and this is the most important part, is all the way through the pandemic, we were trying to discourage people going to their GP or going to the hospital unless it was absolutely the last straw. But if you've got a healthy nation, they don't need to go to the GP or the hospital. They're keeping themselves fit. So much of the stuff that they would have to do and the routine things, we would have a much stronger, healthier, more positive, more especially mentally positive society, where people would get on, they would help each other. Perhaps people would get together and have growing clubs where they could grow more food and get involved in the growing of food, the preparation of food. Because when you think back to very old times, back in, say, the Neolithic and the Iron Age, and I know it sounds crazy, but when you go back into those times, the growing of food and the rearing of animals was the most important thing. And people knew how to do it. They would recognize plants and grasses and trees and would know exactly how useful that is. They would know which plant they needed to eat in order to cure certain imbalances that they had. We've lost all of that. We've given that to a profession who may be able to service us with pills, but also they're much more interested in making large profits. But I would like to see a government that's thinking about us, our health, and how we can survive, live longer, live stress-free, and all of that. And you may say, well, how would you pay it? How would you pay for all of this utopian, wonderful world in which everybody gets on and we all have lovely food? Well, I can't give you all the answers, but what I do know is that we seem to be at the moment madly in debt. We have a cost of living crisis. We can't seem to look after one another. We don't know who our neighbours are. Our schools are teaching children some very freaky things at the moment. Our police don't seem to be actually doing the job that we thought that the police should be doing. They seem to be doing other things, controlling our thoughts and checking out our tweets and things like this. And so what we have been doing hasn't really been working. And I think that there is so much potential for us, and we need people to be looking after us. Yes, I'm all for people to earn a living, and I'm all for small corporates and capitalism on a smallish scale, but not the extreme scale where the only people who seem to get wealthy are the extremely rich, and that more and more people are becoming poorer. I don't think it's a fair society, but I think it could be. And we need positive thoughts and positive people coming forward to represent us and get us out the quagmire that we seem to be in. We've got 2 years. We need people to come forward and show us a much more bright future than we've got at the moment. And I think it's possible. Do you?